Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Vancouver, live streaming from our sanctuary at 49th and Oak. As many of you know, our sanctuary is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. And this morning, I know that many of you are joining from places far afield in territories belonging to different people. So I would encourage you this morning to share your own territorial acknowledgement in the live stream chat. We as a congregation are working towards reconciliation and redress, and we understand and acknowledge that it's an imperfect process, one which we have to work on every day. Now, you've probably noticed things look a little different this morning. I'm not standing up at the podium. Today is all about revealing a little bit of behind the scenes and sharing how we put together our services. This was motivated and informed because we've done a couple of workshops over the last few months, including a coffee hour, where we started talking about what worship means and how do we worship from home. And I realized that many people don't know what goes into producing a service, and I thought it would be fun during the summer to try something different. So we have a series of interviews with different people that were involved in putting together the services and their recollections over time, as well as a new member who has just joined the Worship Services Committee. So we'll be hearing from Christian Malcolm, Kirsten Moore, and Jamie Homeniuk later on in the service. Now, some of you might have noticed that there's this funky gizmo here. I've got a phone on it with a camera. It's called a gimbal, and as I move around, the camera stays steady. So that's one of the pieces of magic that we have. And we're going to switch to this camera so I can show you what I'm looking at for a change. Christian? So you can see we have Diane Donaldson, who is sitting there very graciously. She is one of the 3 people that has been providing flowers to us throughout the winter time. Which I sincerely appreciate. It's really lovely to have the flowers here in the mornings. Now, up above, let's see if I can get this to show. There we go. We have Christian. Christian is the technical wizard that has been helping us produce all of our amazing services. He is actually sitting, this is probably the last few weeks that he's in that spot. And you can see on the left, maybe there's a bit of a hole. Some of you might know that used to be where the organ is. And that's going to be our new home for our live stream production team. And if we go over to the other side, we might be able to see Ken. Ken is our audio person today. We have a team of a few people, but if anybody's interested in technology and getting involved, we're a little short-staffed this summer. Down below, we have Jamie, who's sitting there, and we'll get to hear from her a little bit later today. We've already seen Elaine, who's been playing that beautiful music for us this morning. Thank you so much. And then as we pan around, you can see the stage. We have a TV, a large screen TV on a mobile stand. And in front of the TV, hopefully you can see there's this very small camera on a stick. So that's the second of the main cameras that we use in our productions. And then as we come around, you can see a little bit of behind the scenes as well. So we can switch cameras. We're good. The conversations I had with people during the coffee hours and in other places revealed how important worship is, how important Sunday services are. Moving to online services totally disrupted our rituals and rhythms. And at the same time, though, it's created space to try out new things. I know some of you are in your pajamas right now. I'm quite certain of that. Some of you are actually dressed in your Sunday finery as well. Many of you might be doing something else at the same time as watching the service, maybe crocheting, maybe knitting, maybe doing homework. A lot of you have coffee or tea in your hands. Some of you could be be sitting there with your kids and doing some cuddling. But I bet many of you right now have a candle, have some matches or a lighter, and you're ready with a chalice to light it. So for our chalice lighting this morning, I'm going to read some words that we've heard many times before. Some of you might not know that these were actually written by Dr. Cole Harris in collaboration with Dr. Reverend Stephen Epperson. Together, we light this candle. Together, we see its light with kindness and deep bonds of community, with love for the human family in all its variety, and with reverence before the world and its teeming web of life. May we care for our earthly home and for each other with courage, love, and justice. Now, please join with me in singing on this beautiful, glorious morning, hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from above over and around us lies, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
So I have a small change in our story today. I'm going to read from a book, All in a Day. It's different than the one shown in the order of service. It's written by Cynthia Ryland and illustrated by Nikki McClure. A day is a perfect piece of time to live a life, to plant a seed, to watch the sun go by. A day starts early, work to do beneath a brand new sky. A day brings hope. hope and kindness too. A day is all its own. You can make a wish and start again. You can find a way back home in a day. For every bird and every tree and every living thing loves the promise in a day, loves what it can bring. There is a faith in morning time, there is a belief in noon. Evening will come whispering and shine a bright, round moon. A day can change just everything given half a chance. Rain could show up at your door and teach you how to dance. I hope it rains soon. I'd like to dance. The past is sailing off to sea, and the future is fast asleep. A day is all you have to be. It's all you get to keep. Underneath that great big sky, the earth is all a spin. This day will soon be over, and it won't be back again. So live well, make it count, fill it up with you. The day's all yours. It's waiting now. See what you can do. I really like that idea, filling up a day and making it yours. So I have one last story to tell before I get up and move from this spot. Many of you have seen and recognized me from lighting the community candles, which, if you're a new member to the church, you might not know this is actually a new tradition for us. And it started on, I think it was June 28th of last year. It was the first service after Reverend Epperson had retired. And as we were preparing for the service, somebody, and I can't remember who, asked the question, what about the book of celebrations and concerns? We used to have a book, actually we still have the book, in the entrance into the church, and people as they arrived on Sunday would write down any celebrations or concerns, and they would be read as part of the service. And all of a sudden we realized we didn't know how we could share each other's celebrations and concerns. So we came up with the idea that we could provide people with a form on our website, and so people still submit celebrations and concerns through our form. And we would also engage with people on the YouTube chat. So I'd ask for a candle request, and I copy it from the YouTube chat, just copy and paste, and put it into a script that I would later read from. The first time I really didn't know how many people would participate, and I wrote a few fake candles just in case nobody submitted anything. It turns out we have the opposite problem sometimes. We only have 18 candles, and so that's the limit of how many candles, and I number them in the script to make sure that we don't go over that. Since that time, Juliet, Adrian, and Cheryl Amundsen also help with doing the community candles, and we essentially follow the same process. This morning, Juliet is at home and she's helping prepare the script, so hopefully you've made any candle requests. And I'm going to go up to the stage with Jamie, and we're going to light some community candles now. Just as a warning, in the spirit of showing you how things are made, we are going to use one camera and do kind of a wild switch so you can see how cool this camera is in changing angles. We don't normally do it because, well, Christian doesn't think it's that cool, but that's okay. We're going to try it for this morning. So, Jamie? We light this chalice candle together at the start of our services, and I hope you've lit a candle at home to help create your own sacred space. The candle lighting means many different things to each of us. For some, it's a reminder of our shared purpose. For others, the act of lighting a candle is a small gesture to guide us into a more reflective space. We take time in our services to light individual candles. Candles for gratitude and grief, celebration and sorrow. As each candle is lit, please join me at home in saying, we light this candle together. The first candle we're going to light today is the candle with the orange ribbon in remembrance of the hundreds of children in unmarked graves found in Canada's residential schools. We light it for their families, for their communities. We light this candle together. Catherine Roback asks us to light a candle for the family of their beloved Duncan Graham, born 1929 and passed away in 2021. Rest in peace, Duncan. We light this candle together. Elizabeth Dunn's granddaughter Malika would like to light a candle for all of the homeless people. We light this candle together. Marcia Brondy asks us to light a candle for rain and to cool down all of the forests burning in British Columbia, and especially for the families that are affected. We light this candle together. We light this final candle for our unspoken joys and sorrows, celebrations and concerns, and as a reminder to treat each other with kindness and compassion. We light this candle together. As I'd mentioned previously, you're always welcome to submit candle requests through our form. Now, this is the time where we usually do our meditation. If you wanted to have a seat, that would be fine. The meditation turned out to be one of the elements that many people mentioned is very important as part of their religious or spiritual practice. Several people commented that it's almost like a reset button for the week. 2 minutes of silence. And especially 2 minutes of silence when we can be present together and there's 100 other people actively being silent is incredibly profound. Now, this week, in honor of the new rituals that we have all created at home, I have a bit more of a fun poem. I have a poem about coffee. I know many of you are drinking coffee or tea right now. So if you have a mug that's in front of you, you might want to pick it up and hold it, feel its warmth, think about how it smells, what it tastes like. Think about the journey that it took to get from the grower to the store and into your cup. You might think about how sharing a cup of coffee with a friend brings us closer together, helps us build relationships. This poem is by Alicia D. Clark. It's called Thoughts from Within a Mug. Coffee, so delicate yet so simple. It can give you the highest of buzzes to the deepest of thoughts. Coffee is a blank canvas and the drinker is an artist. Splashing vibrant coats of sugar and milk, creamer flowing from brushes, spoons clanking and stirring a beautiful picture, creating a one-of-a-kind work. To each cup of coffee, his own. Beautiful. Thank you. For today's homily, it's a little different. As I mentioned before, I'd interviewed Kirsten Moore, Christian Malcolm, and Jamie Homeniuk, all about different parts and aspects of our worship services. I started the interviews with the same question, and I want to ask all of you watching the same thing. Why are worship services important to you? Why do you attend? For some context, on an average Sunday, we have about 100 people that join us live, and another 100 or so will watch over the course of a week. Why? I would love for you to share why you are here this morning in the chat. And in the meantime, let's jump straight into video clip number 1. We can hear from Jamie and Kirsten.
My name is Jamie. I'm 22 and I'm originally from Alberta in a very small town. I came to Vancouver 4 years ago and I was interested in joining UCV then, but could never work up the courage to actually do it. And then last summer, I was talking to a couple of friends about spirituality and religion, and they just encouraged me to go for it. So I did, and I'm here. To start, I didn't every week. I kind of, caught one every now and then started to realize that the routine and the act of doing something once a week really helped center myself. Like, for example, I missed, not this last week, but the week before. And coming back to it this week, I found it a little bit harder to kind of get back into that feeling after just missing 1 week. So it definitely brings my focus back and helps me feel connected to do it every week. So I definitely really appreciate the consistency of that.
I'm Kirsten Moore. I'm the Director of Lifespan Faith Formation at the Unitarian Church of Vancouver. Well, when I get to go to a worship service, I would say, like myself, I'm very involved on the production end here at UCV. And so a worship service for me doesn't need to be on Sunday morning, for me personally. But what I'm looking for when I have like those moments of uplift and connection, it's times when I can connect with other people in a way that elevates my sense of being in the world, often through music, through inspiration and connectedness. And so that's the kind of thing that I, as a religious professional in this church, that I try to help create for people. And Sunday morning happens to be the time when we've chosen to do that together as the largest, that this time when we gather together in the largest numbers of people in our community, usually anywhere from 1 to 200 people.
In my conversations, the importance of connection that Kirsten talked about, many people commented on that. Many people also commented on how important having repeated Sunday services and that element of ritual creates a space that's apart from daily life. Another of the themes that came through was the importance of music. Throughout the period of online worship, we've had a mixture of live and recorded music. And some of you may have noticed that all singing has been pre-recorded since about October. We've never had live performances, live vocal performances, while we're actually live streaming. We have an impressive library of hymns that were produced by our choir leads, and Beth Bresney's. Beth was kind enough to share how our hymns were produced. It's quite the process, I have to say. Step 1, Elliot Danow records our piano, the piano accompaniment. Step 2, Donna Brown, our choir director, records a conductor video. Step 3, Beth edits together Donna and Elliot's video. That's actually the first mix. That mix goes to the choir leads, and in step 4, the choir leads each record their parts individually while listening to Elliot, usually in an earbud, and watching Donna conduct. Step 5, Beth edits together all of the choir leads. This is mix number 2. And frankly, that's already pretty impressive, but that's actually only the next mix. When there's recordings that involve the entire choir, in step 6, Beth creates 5 versions of that second mix. One where it's equally balanced between all of the choir leads, and then 4 additional ones where the volume of the soprano, the alto, the tenor, and bass are a little bit louder. She posts those 5 videos on a private website where the choir members can view them. Step 7, each of the individual choir members record their own video. Again, with the reference playing in an earbud. And that way, each choir member's video only has their own voice in the audio. It felt awkward to each of them to hear their own voices in isolation like that. But once Beth edited all the individual videos together and balanced the audio, it always sounded lovely. Step 8, she would take each video and each audio track and mix them together to make the final product. And I'm going to quote what she wrote for me. I used Final Cut Pro and found some free grid layout templates last summer that made the visual layout a bit easier. It was hours of work for each video, but the process got more streamlined over time, and it was all certainly worth it to continue making music together throughout the year. Between the choir leads hymns and the full choir pieces, we produced 67. 67. I feel like repeating that, 67. 67 videos this year. Beth is incredibly proud of the team effort that went into making this amazing body of work, and thanks to everyone who contributed their voices and talents. I was astounded when Beth explained the process and the labor and the love that went into our library of music. Our catalog is impressive. And I know from many of you how important the continued participation in the choir was over the past year, and the continued presence of members of our congregation leading us in hymns was. Music is just one of the parts of our services. We have recordings like the ones we are watching today. We have slideshows. We have at least 2 cameras, and this morning was one of the first times we've used 3 cameras. We have different audio tracks, and then on Sunday morning, all of that comes together in a live production. And that process has changed quite a bit over the last year. We've experimented and learned things along the way. And we've had a few moments, shall we call them, on certain Sundays as well. We could listen to video clip number 2 of Christian and Kirsten talking a little bit about the process and evolution.
So I'm trained as an actor, and I have always been a nerd. So it means that I have this combination of skills, which mean that no one has seen, but for the last year and a half, there's me up here saying, okay, everyone, we start in 5 minutes, or 30 seconds till we air, and it's a bit like a studio in here. Before hybrid, it'll change when we have people in again. So it's a combination of my previous experience and skills with being on sets and in theater, and with my technical know-how on how to use YouTube and cameras and computers. So it's really been a Venn diagram of joy. There's a few parts. There's the computer, which does all the heavy lifting, and there's two screens, and there's a screen down there which is a copy of what's happening on this screen. This machine here is something that we use to move from shot to shot, from camera to camera. So there's two parts to the role. One is preparing all of this, and then on the other part is the Sunday morning show, and it all gets put on here, and it's designed that anybody could theoretically run a service by just pushing these buttons in a certain order, and there are videos that are prepared. So we have a remote control that operates a camera that we have. I don't know if you can see, but we have a camera that's hanging on wires in the middle of the sanctuary. And that camera can move. You can see it's kind of a robotic camera which moves to different angles depending on what we're watching. And then we have a second camera that's on a pole, which is an iPhone, and we jump back and forth between those cameras in different positions. And the videos that we have, and they all get prepared on the computer. And then I keep an eye on the live stream and chat and watch what's happening in the real world, and I plug in my headphones and listen to the sound as it is coming through YouTube. So it's not that complicated, and we're trying to simplify and streamline so we can train more people. It's definitely something that's something you could learn to do, but you just basically push these buttons. Well, in the beginning, it was just about how do we get this out, and then it was how do we get this out and make it look a little better, make it sound and look good. And then it was, how do I get off the floor? How do we get everything out as much as possible? Because I was hoping that we would be doing hybrid a long time ago, and we haven't been able to. So, but everything we've been doing is like, how do we keep this space as technology free as possible, get rid of the cables and the wires and the cameras as much as possible. And that's really the focus over the last few months, is getting ready for people being in the room again. I know this space has incredible spiritual, aesthetic value. And so everything we're doing, every decision we're making is about maintaining access so people outside can still be part of each service if they can't come, but also making the space as it's originally intended to be, which is not technology.
Well, at the very beginning, when things were really intense, everything was virtual. So I know there were very few people on site in the sanctuary, and I was not one of them. So my connection was through Zoom, Sunday, the coffee hours on Zoom, and then helping Stephen set up his regular Wednesday talk meeting times, drop-in times. And then I held a drop-in time for parents and families during the day for a little while people were scrambling, and that kind of faded away a little bit as people got tired of looking at the computer. And then jumping into kind of movie production. So we had already planned this Easter play on Emily Carr last year that Stephen had planned, and and Stephen asked, "Is there a way we can do this?" And I said, "Sure, we'll do it on Zoom." So there was a lot of creating of story, using the video editing in different ways, and using Zoom. And then we did, in the summertime, we did an outdoor production, an outdoor play. So, and Vivian Davidson helped with that, the filming of that. We edited that one together. And we did And we did in-person filming for the solstice pageant, which was also presented on the day as a film.
Well, there's kind of two flavors. There's the scary flavor where like someone on the sound department rolled their chair back and it pulled out the plug and all the electrics went down and we lost our internet once. So things like that happened. Today, as the service was starting, the computer froze and crashed because of a software problem. So those are the scary ones where I'm absolutely 100% and no one's allowed to talk to me and I have to figure out how to get us back up and running. So those keep me on the edge of my seat. But then the positive is being in the room during all of these services, and it's a magical space and it's a very beautiful space. And there have been so many beautiful services with live things happening and things that have been brought in on video. All those greetings and all the outside participation and all the effort people have put into each service. So there's been lots of memorable moments just being privileged to be in this room while something's been happening that I know most people are enjoying outside of the room.
One of the challenges that came up fairly early on last summer is about how we balance privacy and also the desire to make our worship services, which were now being recorded, available longer term to people who might not be able to join on Sunday mornings. We had some pretty intense conversations, by my memory. And from my own memory, one of the things we were concerned about is how how to balance how consent changes over time. You might think of what we're willing to share on a Sunday morning. Maybe we don't want that available to the public a year from now, or maybe a month from now, or maybe even a week from now, to be quite honest. We also talked about how people can take clips from YouTube and make their own videos from those clips and use them in a way that we can't control and we can't even imagine, a way that could potentially be harmful. Some kids, including kids in our congregation, are really well aware of how media can be used and misused. And part of our conversation was a worry that children's concerns and worries, legitimate worries, might reduce their participation in our services. So our next video clip is about Kirsten talking very briefly about our policy.
Our policy of leaving things up for 1 week and then taking it down and making it private. And then, so the goal is to allow our children to participate as they and their parents feel comfortable. So there's an option to say, yep, you can live stream us, but take it down. So if we have a child or youth involved in the service whose preference is to not be left up recorded at all, then that would be a service that is only available live. And we haven't had that. We haven't had anybody request that yet at this point. Most people, in fact, when we were taking things down immediately, we had children and parents quite disappointed and upset that they couldn't have their grandparents weren't, or other people or friends weren't available to watch it live, and really wanted to be able to see their participation.
So I talked a little bit and told a little bit of the story of community candles earlier. And really, the motivation of creating this particular little ritual was about fostering connection. And I have to admit, over the last year, some of the times I felt most connected, most a part of this community, has been reading the words that we send to each other in the chat. There's tremendous compassion and consideration that I witness on a weekly basis. What I didn't realize for a while, I do now, is that the Care and Concern Committee is also watching the chat and also reaches out to people to connect with them and build our community a little bit further. Jamie, a new member, talks a little bit about her experience.
Actually, I've posted a couple candle requests in the chat as well, and had Naomi from the Care and Concern Committee reach out to me. And I've never had that before. I've never really had, you know, like I had met Naomi previously, but not very often, or very, you know, like I never really had a chance to talk. But to have her reach out to me and just say, like, how are you doing? We're thinking of you. You have a community to support you, was really, it was like a moment for me. I remember sitting at work and just feeling this overwhelming sense of just like acceptance and happiness and gratitude that I was now a part of a community. And it was another one of those moments that really spurred me forward into like, I want to be more involved. I want this feeling to stick around. So I want to be able to support others, right? Like that.
The last questions that we talked about were all related to looking towards the future, towards what worship might look like, towards the things that we might include in our services, or how they might change as we move to a time where some of us are able to be physically together at the same time. So if we can look at the video clip, we'll hear from all three, Christian, Kirsten, and Jamie.
I've been very excited to come into the church for quite a while. I think the live stream services was a really good introduction for me because it helped kind of get rid of that nervousness. You know, I could come in and I wouldn't have to show who I was or like make any big commitments. But I think being in the church and being surrounded by the community, especially after so many months of not having that, I think is very exciting for me. So I'm actually really looking forward to coming into the church.
I'm looking forward to having people in the room. I'm looking forward to being in the background and being able to capture as much as possible the magic in the room with more people in it. It's a special feeling when there's a lot of us in here experiencing something together. And I want to try to keep that connection with those that can't come and our new members who are not in Vancouver, but also give this space back to humans who are interacting with other humans.
Well, I guess the clear thing is physical connection, like being in the room. It's not, singing is not the same. I mean, it's beautiful to hear the music, but singing by oneself in one's living room is not the same as singing together. And just being the energy of being in a space with other people. Mhm. Well, I think it's important to realize that when we're back in person, following up on that question of what is missing, is we are largely going to need to relearn how to be together in person after this whole entire year of being apart. It will be familiar and different, and everybody will react differently. There's going to be nervousness and anxiety and fear and joy and ecstaticness, sometimes all at the same time, in different varying degrees with different people. Like our reaction to coming back together will not be just as if the past year and a half didn't happen.
We are at the cusp of another change in how we worship. Some of us are going to return to the sanctuary and we will be with each other in joy. Some of us will continue to worship remotely, and we want to maintain the connections that we've built through these platforms between both those here in the church and those joining from elsewhere. I think many of us are actually going to do a bit of both. Some Sundays here, some Sundays remotely, or maybe we'll watch on our commutes to school or the commute to work. We will have live music again. And we will be able to, at some point, join in the singing together here in the sanctuary and share that with people joining and singing at home. I think we're looking forward to bringing some of the cool pieces, some of the interesting experiments into the sanctuary. And I'm thinking of the bridging ceremonies that we had a few weeks ago, where we had those fantastic, just extraordinary animations, bringing small pieces like that into the sanctuary and sharing them online. I can also think of some of the chalice lightings that we've had. One of the Lego lighting is particularly memorable, but small pieces like that. We will learn new ways of being together. So to close the homily, I want to ask you all at home yet another question. What is it that you're looking forward to? And as we start thinking about the changes in the way we worship, what would you like to continue after 18 months of online worship? Please join with me in singing our closing hymn, hymn number 360, Here We Have Gathered.
Here we have gathered, gathered side by side. Circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this the heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of a lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us as we give, we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song.
One of the things that has changed since we moved to online services is how we do our offering every week. And that's evolved a little bit over the last year as well. Now I have a bowl, a basket. It's actually the basket that we used to pass up and down the pews every week. And all the flowers and the rock, the rainbow rock, are intended to symbolize the gifts that each of us bring to our community. Gifts of time, gifts of money, creativity, and kindness. These gifts are given and received as a sacred trust, dedicated to the life and flourishing of the Church and the broader Unitarian Universalist movement. Please join with me in saying our affirmation of gratitude. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may be held by the generosity of others. Now we have some board announcements from board member Jenny Malcolm.
Hello, my name is Jenny Malcolm, and I'm honored to be a member of the UCV Board of Trustees. The board oversees and guides the church forward, furthering its mission and vision in many ways. That vision is this: because we envision a more compassionate world, we seek to deepen our spiritual and religious lives, grow and enrich our congregation, and advocate for love and justice. As Unitarians, we are dedicated to spiritual growth, social justice, and reverence for nature and all life. We embody these values through worship, ethical action, artistic expression, and religious education for all ages that aim to connect hearts, heads, and hands. Our congregation welcomes all ages, orientations, abilities, and identities in our joyous search for meaning. There are no board or community announcements for this week, so have a great day, everyone.
I think one of the things that I hope we can bring into the sanctuary is more recordings of birds. That was beautiful in the background. Thank you so much for joining me today. To close our time together, I have some words adapted from Richard Ragames from his book Embers. It's adapted from a dialogue between him and a character he calls Old Woman. And I particularly appreciate how this relates to this question of why is worship important and why are rituals important? What if we're wrong? Wrong about all this ceremony and prayer and meditation? What if at the end of it all there is nothing? Old woman. Then we still come out better people. How? Old woman. Can you think of a better way to live than in gratitude? Can you think of a better way to be than kind, loving, compassionate, respectful, courageous, truthful, and forgiving? Even if we are wrong, can you think of a better way to breathe than through all that? I couldn't. I can't. I continue. Let us sing Carry the Flame together. After I light the chalice flame, or extinguish the chalice flame.
We're sponsoring a new comer to Canada. We're raising funds to help him get through the first year here in Canada.
Rainbow Refugee Society has a charitable status and works in helping refugees who are seeking asylum based on their sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, and HIV status.
So we're here prepping for Andre's arrival. He'll be coming here in a couple weeks.
I'm just texting with him right now, asking him a few questions about if he has any dietary restrictions and that sort of thing, so that we can make sure he gets to a home that's perfect for him.
Both my parents were escaping the Vietnam War. The narrative of being a refugee has always been very strong in my family, and so I've been looking for ways to help other people who have been in similar situations.
He sent me a text that said he was just trying his level best to stay safe, and I was really taken by that. We're all really excited to meet him and just kind of get on with it, you know?
We have some other things to hopefully make him feel comfortable. Some mitts, some wool socks. We're just on our way out to the airport. Flight just arrived about 10 minutes ago.